Hello, my name is Woody. Welcome to Season 3 of Change in the House of Pods, a podcast about Deftones. Today, Deftones will resume touring and perform for the first time since 2019. So, I am beyond excited to resume celebrating my favorite band with you. I have some fun conversations in store for Season 3 with folks like Anthony DiDio from Vane FM, Justine Jones from Employed to Serve, David Updike from Jesus Piece. I recently spoke to Lorenzo Diego Carrera, who directed the video for one of the new Crosses songs, Initiation. And I'm still holding on to my conversation with Jonah Matranga. That one's pretty special. I think you're really going to like it. And so is our conversation today. Just before the release of their new album, Requiem, I got to speak with Brian Welch from KoRn. Head. I got to talk to fucking Head from KoRn. How cool is that? KoRn's history and relationship with Deftones is, well, I don't want to say well documented. There's documentation of it, but as an outsider looking in, I've always wanted to know how Deftones and KoRn linked up and managed to spearhead the last great wave of heavy music in popular culture. I would venture to guess that KoRn, more than any other band outside of Deftones, has been mentioned the most on this podcast. For a lot of my guests, KoRn was the other band they were listening to when they got into Deftones. I mean, KoRn and Deftones go hand in hand, really, even though they haven't been overtly connected since their earliest days. And we're going to talk about the earliest days here. Head's going to talk about hitting it off with Deftones and with Chi in particular. He'll talk about his favorite songs. And in my opinion, he gives one of the best explanations that I've ever heard for how nu metal happened. It's pretty cool. And I got to be honest, we had this chat over Zoom. Strikingly handsome man. He's got strong cheekbones, a very symmetrical face. I did not anticipate that the guy from KoRn would be such a snack. No, really, this was an absolute treat, and I hope you enjoy it half as much as I did. This is my conversation with Head from KoRn.
Hey.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm Woody. Nice to meet you.
Woody, Brian. Good to meet you. Sorry, I'm sitting here in bed. It was a late night. We had a show in Diego. Came to LA all late.
Okay, as long as you're feeling good, you're not feeling under the weather or anything, are you?
No.
All right, cool.
I got over COVID 2 weeks ago, so I'm good.
Oh yeah, that's what I remember reading that recently, that it's sort of going through the band, huh?
Yeah. There's only one guy that hasn't gotten it. And so that's our fill-in bass player, Ra. And hoping he gets it. Not in the next few days, but maybe before March, so that nothing happens during the tour.
So it can just be done with.
Right. That's what I felt like. I was like, I'm glad it's over, you know?
Yeah, totally. I think that's what we're all hoping for, is that it's all just going to be over soon.
Yeah. And I think we all got to catch it for it to be over.
I think you might be right. Well, first of all, before we get going, I want to just tell you that I really appreciate you kicking it with me for this podcast. It's a passion project above all else, looking to celebrate my favorite bands. And I just think that's the coolest thing, that you would sit down and kick it with me for that reason. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, man. The honor's mine. It's my pleasure.
Before we get into Deftones, and obviously I have a ton of questions I want to talk about, like the early days coming up in Hollywood and all of that sort of thing. Congratulations on the new album. It's pretty dope. I've only heard 3 songs so far. I love all 3. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about Requiem?
Thank you so much. We're very happy with the record. It just feels like a natural progression to where the last record was. Last record was really heavy about dealing with grief and loss, and this one seems like more about healing and hopeful. It has a feeling of being more hopeful, and if you can say that about KoRn, but it is. And the lyrical content is a bit lighter. There's more like some places and with melody that we go, and lyrics, I think, that we don't really go to normally, and so it's really cool. I like it. Feels right.
And I saw you did the live debut of Start the Healing just the other night. How did that feel, finally playing it in front of people?
Oh, it was cool, but it was the first time, so it's like, hey, give us like 5 shows before it gets posted online somewhere. That's, you know.
That's legit. I mean, because it's everywhere. As soon as you put it out, it was news. It was on all the sites, and the video was up, and KoRn's playing Start the Healing. Um, is that a trip? Like, is that hard to manage? Because you want to obviously be on your A game, but then people are. It's the cell phone culture right now. Like everybody's constantly with the phone out at all the shows. Is that tough?
Yes, because we're human. We rehearsed it a bunch of times, but once you get live, it's different. And it was the very first show of the tour, so it's like we just made some mistakes, and but hey, it'll get better and better.
I'm sure it will. I'm especially excited to hear Forgotten when you guys pull that out. So when you come to Minneapolis, make sure that one's on the set list. Is that cool?
Okay, we got to put that one on. That dude, I love that riff, man. And so we got to. I love. You think it'll be snowing in March when we get there, or is it gonna be snowing? Really?
Yes.
So what's up, Minneapolis? Does it snow from like November to March or what?
Sometimes into April. That's the Prince song, right? Sometimes it snows in April. Yeah.
Serious?
That's legit. Yeah. Yeah, dude.
When does it start?
Well, it's been later, climate change and everything. It's been gradually starting later, but by January, it's like we're in it.
Okay.
We're in it. And yeah, then it can go. Spring is it's a fleeting moment here, and it like usually goes backwards to winter before it gets to summer. It's weird.
If I want to move somewhere that has way more snow than where I'm at right now. I'm in Tennessee, but we get a little bit, but I love cold. I love snow.
Do you really?
Yes.
Oh man, it's literally like 0 right now here.
Oh, that's my dream.
I don't think. Yeah, it's 3. It's 3. So, and that's not even the wind chill. And they're gonna play a U.S. World Cup qualifying soccer game here outside tonight, where it's gonna be like 25, 30 below wind chill. Like it's life goes on in the cold, but it's insane.
That's a little crazy, but I wouldn't want to play anything like that. But I love blankets. I love fires. I love heaters. I just love all cold, anything cold.
Well, you're gonna get plenty of it when you come to. I think you guys are in Minneapolis the end of March, so yeah, it'll be plenty cold. I promise.
Good.
Bring a big jacket. So this week you guys are gonna do. You're gonna play instead of an arena show. You're gonna do a show with like 300 people in the church. It's the Requiem Mass. It's like 350 people that you're playing to, right?
Yeah. Yep.
When was the last time you played to 300 people?
Oh, probably before I rejoined KoRn when I was at solo band, and 300 was freaking massive for my solo project.
Is that hard going? What was harder going from the early days where you're playing 300 people in a club and it's bumping to an arena where maybe not as many people know you versus going backwards from an arena to a club? What's harder?
Oh, I don't know. It's maybe you got that hunger when not that many people know you. Back in the early days, opening for Ozzy, it's like you want to win them over, or piss them off if they're just like, these guys are weird, bagpipes and dreadlocks, and you just want to piss them off or win them over. And so it was like a challenge,
Yeah.
But going to this church we're playing at, which was just crazy, by the way. We named the record Requiem, and then our management came up with the idea to play at church and just have musical guests and just kind of no big names or nothing that people would know, but like musicians, we'll just say that way. We got some cool tricks coming for the event, and we're gonna dress it up all cool, and yeah, it's fun. Playing to 300 people in this church is going to be fun for us. It's something we've never done before, so it's really exciting.
That's exciting. Don't spoil it anymore for me because I'm definitely going to stream it. So
Okay.
don't tell me,
Awesome.
don't tell me anything more.
Right.
But you mentioned touring for Ozzy. Was that actually? Let me go back further than that because this is a Deftones podcast. When was the first time you heard about Deftones?
Oh man. I mean, gosh, how did we hear about them? Somebody connected us with them. I think they played LA or something. And we went down to see him, if I remember right. And I was like, all of us were just like, what is going on right now? This is like similar to us, but different from us all at the same time. The show was just like energetic. They ebbed and flowed like us. It was like they did the whole quiet, sweet thing, and then out of nowhere, and it just made you feel something. Like I was jealous of their style. I remember I loved our style, but there's things about their style that I was like, oh, that is so cool. I wish we would have come up with that, something like that.
Like, what do you mean?
Just like the way Chino, like just his soft voice was like so unique. Like nobody sounded like him. Just that whispery thing he did was so crazy. And then the like what's that song on Adrenaline? Sock.
Yeah, 7 words.
Yeah, all those
Yeah.
songs, man. Bored. And my favorite song, it was, oh man, I forget the name of it. I don't remember. I gotta look at it. I'm gonna look at the record while you ask the next question. Of my favorite Deftones song, and it's less known.
I'm gonna ask you about that. I want to ask you like what your favorite album is and what your favorite song is.
Okay, good.
Back to that time. So like how I because obviously I know you did the tour together, but how often were you actually like in touch with the bands? Like I know you played Sacramento, like you did the Cactus Club, and you went to San Jose, like you guys were up there and they were probably in LA, but was there a lot of overlap prior to going out on tour? Because the tour with Ozzy in '96, that was the first time that you guys hit the road together, right?
Well, we did a tour before we got signed. That's the cool thing with us and Deftones. We go way back. Neither of us had a record deal. There were things being talked about, but neither of us had a record deal. And we brought them to play in Orange County, maybe LA, maybe 2 or 3 shows. And then they brought us to open for them in Sacto and Frisco. And so we just hit it off so quickly, man. And we were just massive fans of each other's bands right off the bat, and had similar lifestyles and humor, and you know what I'm saying? And I connected with Chi like so closely. Me and him were inseparable on the road. And when we eventually got signed and would play different tours or whatever, when I came into town, I would go to his house, and when he was first married to his first wife, and he had his son, and it was like, gosh, he was over the moon for his son and everything. And yeah, it was just we'll just go way back to like 93, man. It's so far ago, so long ago. And then we both got signed, and yeah, I think we just came out a little bit before them. But
yeah, it was sort of a watershed moment, I feel like, in both bands' careers when Blind got played on K-Rock. Because my understanding is that, and maybe it's because I'm a radio guy, I feel this way, but my understanding is that Blind was the thing that triggered Guy Oseary and Maverick to go like, all right, we need to really push Deftones and get them out there and get them exposed. And then they played 4 million shows in a row. But that's obviously like 95, 96 still. So there's like, that's a really interesting time to me. Not only like the scene that was going on in Sacramento, and then I'm not really sure like what was going on in LA. It feels like you guys sort of were your own entity. But there was something in the water, right? Like what was ripe for heavy music at that time? Like what was ripe for it?
Man, I just think it was growing up in the 80s, it's like you mainly had to choose your genre. It was like you're in with this crowd or you're in with this crowd. You couldn't be into everything. And then the 90s just was like, I mean, you could, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as common. It was like people had their cliques and the music went with that clique. And the 90s opened that up to, I remember me and my friends started getting into just hardcore rap and new wave or indie, bands like Depeche Mode and The Cure, and then you could like Slayer and Boogie Down Productions or Public Enemy, and then Chili Peppers, and it was like everybody liked everything because all this alternative stuff started coming out, and the hip hop was just had all these different styles that were coming out too, and NWA and all that stuff. And so, and then the Nirvana thing hit in 90, 91, whatever it was, and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, and it was, and like Chains was really heavy,
Truly.
But then Pearl Jam was more, their stuff's more blues based musically, but they were like punk rock at their show. Eddie Vedder like just doing these crazy things, hanging upside down and risking his life and just banging holes in the stage and then disappearing like under the stage to leave. And it's just like, it was crazy. And I think it was like the next evolution of crazy with heavy music after all that happened, with the combination of having multiple genres of music that you are like just obsessed with, instead of like, I grew up obsessed with metal, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Ozzy, Motley Crue. It was like just that group, And then in the early 90s, I started getting obsessed with, and everybody did, with like a Nirvana and then NWA and Chili Peppers and Nine Inch Nails, and it was just all this music everywhere. And so I think it was a breeding ground of just something like, and Pantera, I got to throw them in there. They were the heaviest thing. Vulgar Display of Power is the heaviest thing we had ever heard to that point, and it was like that combination just like shot this new heavy wave of like, let's just take this to the next place. Let's take this to a different and heavier place, but mixed with like all the vulnerability of like what Deftones does. It's like it feels like sweet, when he was singing like that, like the soft stuff. And Jonathan even did, and crazy cool. I love where it went. It was very exciting times.
It's really cool to hear you talk about it as like this natural evolution of heavy music. And there's certainly, I think, got a little bit of magic. There's got to be a little magic in just how explosive. I mean, you guys were on TRL. TRL was a thing. Like all of that was so wonderful and amazing. But I hadn't really considered it in terms of like just as an evolution of heavy music in the way that you described it there. So that's enlightening. I mean, that's really cool to think of. That's one of my favorite parts about this podcast is learning. And that's
I don't think I've ever said that before. I think that's the first time I've said that. It's just, you asked me a question and that's what I see is what happened. It was just,
it's right on.
Yeah.
It's right on.
It was just like, I love how people's minds especially just musical minded people, and real fans of music just opened up to be more, just accepting of different genres, that can blend to well together. And you got to give it up to bands like Anthrax and Public Enemy for, crossing genres like that. And who else? I mean, there's
a ton. And you guys obviously
Aerosmith and
no doubt
Run
DMC.
You know what I mean? It's just like yeah, very cool, man, times. And I'm glad I was a part of that because I was so close-minded to my like heavy metal, you know. And when my band, the guys in KoRn got into like Chili Peppers and Faith No More, and I was like, man, you guys, this music is just, you know, it wasn't my thing. I wanted to hear the vocalist go. Like, I was so into metal, and I felt like they were just going to some clowny music. And Chili Peppers were never my thing. Like, as far as like, I wasn't a huge fan, but I really respected Flea and the bass and the you know, I had a punk feel but with funk, and I respected that a lot. But Faith No More is the band that was like my gateway drug into that style of music, that alternative metal or whatever.
Sure.
And then Nirvana too, because into the indie. They were my gateway into more indie music and stuff. And because I was so stuck in the metal thing, and I still love metal, but there was so much more that I learned through those bands, you know. It took me a minute.
It took you a minute.
I was a late bloomer.
Well, I feel like that's sort of what's happening with music now, because obviously like the public sort of turned on nu metal for a while, and that whole moment in time, which to me is just a travesty, so much lost time celebrating such great music. But now it's so apparent in the heavy music that I hear from young bands whose, you know, these players weren't even around when that era was actually, you know, underway in the early 2000s. I mean, these kids are all younger than that. Kids in these bands like Code Orange and, you know, a lot of the hardcore music, but all of these bands. But it's so clearly like they speak to you guys. They say it themselves, like KoRn, System of a Down, Deftones. These are such huge influences on us. Do you feel like it's finally happening, like where nu metal or that era of music, which had sort of been, I don't know, poo-pooed, I guess, by the public at large, that like now it's like finally getting the justice that it deserves?
I mean, I hope so, because if the people can say what they want about nu metal, but you go to a show back then, you would feel something, and you would feel adrenaline. The music was never boring, you know. It made people feel something like powerful. And, you know, people would say, I know that we got close with Limp Bizkit for a cycle, you know, one of the album cycles, and we found them, you know, and people say what they want about them, but they're a great live band, and they would get the crowd just going so much. And you know, I think there's things that you could say where they attracted like the jocks and everything. And it's crazy how some people, even Mike from Linkin Park, would like threw us together with them, like we were writing music for jocks. All you have to do is look at the first KoRn record. Jonathan got picked on by jocks and called a faggot, and wrote a song called Faggot. And
yeah,
Jonathan, like, I think he opened the door for a lot of like vulnerability in, you know, he like taking your mental health and putting it in your music, like in such a unedited way, just being like, you know, so real and transparent that, you know, I didn't like how we got lumped in with that. And
I agree.
Jonathan would get pissed off and be like, there's jocks out there beating up goth kids. He was the goth kid getting beat up by jocks when he was a kid. So
totally,
that was never fair to say that. But I'm glad that it's everything comes full circle, you know, and I'm glad that people are finding the positive and the good from it. And of course, if there's any wave of music, there's going to be some mistakes and some, you know, some things that aren't the best, you know, but overall it was awesome, and it made you feel something, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So I love that it's coming back around, and there's some respect there, you know.
Yeah.
I hate when like big bands even would kind of apologize for, being new metal or whatever, because they changed. They went on and did some other styles of music and they disassociate. And we tried to too, because, even Chino was like, I don't want to be associated with new metal because anything new is going to get old,
Mm.
And I mean, unfortunately, everything is going to get old eventually, but I just feel like all of us in KoRn didn't like the new metal thing either. We were like, we're KoRn. Nobody sounds like KoRn. It's like we have our own thing. Jonathan has his own thing. Our guitars sounded, so we didn't like getting lumped into that whole thing. But now that we're older, we're like, that's cool that they call us like the Godfather, one of the first of new metal. So that's flattering.
I think I think that it should be, right? Like it's so
Right.
interesting because you Deftones, I think inextricably linked for your ability to emerge from that time and sustain above it, like, and beyond it. And I think in just listening to what you're saying, like not only the distinct sound, but also that vulnerability, like sort of permitted that ability to skirt being lumped in with a lot of the bands that you maybe broke through the wall and allowed to happen, allowed to come along behind you, whomever they might be. But it is, to me, satisfying that because of that link of you guys being labeled as such, like that it's finally like, no, wait, that was really sick. Like that was actually really awesome. And we should acknowledge that and
Right.
and grow from it and evolve from it the way that, music does.
Yeah.
Hey, did you find that the song? Did you find the song that you liked?
Oh yeah.
From Adrenaline?
Which I just had a brain fart. I mean, it's Adrenaline. It's Lifter, man.
Lifter, yeah.
Dude, they played that song way before they recorded it, and I was like, "That's the jam, right there." I've even how Stephen uses has his strings ring out, on the. I straight ripped that off. And,
Word.
And I mean, not like the chord to the T, but just how he rings the strings out. Like, I was just like, it was so melodic how he did that and had the chorus on it. And so I've used that over the years. I just he influenced me. And
I wanted to ask you about his playing. Like, obviously you've watched him play. Like, how would you describe it? What makes him a successful guitar player?
Uniqueness. Stephen just has, ever since day one, man, he has a unique style, and it's like the dude is, you could hear the influence of metal, thrash, and just from, what was it, board that is that board?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah.
That's board. On Adrenaline.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Is that board or?
Yeah. It's the very beginning. There's a nice build there with Chino coming in soft.
Yeah. Okay. Just that, like that riff. You know what I mean? And then those, what the heck is that? And with the vocals coming in over that riff. No one had ever done that. It was always like you would play like that with thrash, but you wouldn't play it with this cool vocal line over something like that, And then, he had just the melody. It was like, I think Chino was the one that was massively influenced by Depeche Mode, right? And it felt like, I don't know if Steph was, I don't remember, but Steph pulled that other side out so Chino can have that sweetness, and that melody that he needed for them to have that alternative touch, and just love it. But Lifter was my jam, man. Still, every time I hear that song, it gets me. And it wasn't like a single, or it wasn't a video or anything.
Dope album cut.
Yeah, it just freaking, that song moved me from day one before it was even recorded.
That's so cool. What's your favorite album? Favorite Deftones album?
Okay, I always I have a thing with Deftones, and it's like I don't talk to them about it. I'll see Chino every year or two or something, and the rest of the guys, but like we've asked him, let's tour together, and he won't do it, and so I get pissed, and I'm like, okay, as soon as Chino says, because we go way back, as soon as Chino says we're gonna tour together, let's tour together, I want to say no, that's cool. That's my joke, but yeah, but all that to say, like, that makes me mad about him. But what I do want to say is that these guys reinvented themselves. Maybe not reinvented is maybe not the right word, but when she passed away and they hit that wall of like, what do we do now? Them and their management team and whoever producer pulled out Diamond Eyes, and that's one of the best records of their career. And it just kind of took them in a new direction. And so I have to choose that as my favorite record because it was like a rebirth of what Deftones could be. It was similar, but it was just like something new happened to them, with the death of Chi being so horrible. Something good came from maybe their passion for music. I don't know. Maybe the pain helped their passion for music grow, and they went into a little bit of a different direction. But I have to choose the cut Diamond Eyes too, as being the song that does it for me. But I just feel like it was a career defining song and moment for them.
That's so cool,
dude. What the hell are you doing, Stephen? What the heck? It's the most simple. It's so simple, but it's like the coolest riff almost like ever in our style of music. It's just it's just crazy. So that's it. For me, that's it. It's like,
that's what's up.
I could have chose White Pony. I could have chose, Around the Fur and any of the, My Own Summer, any of that stuff. But when they pulled that out, when they were at like a
crossroads, really.
Yeah, the crossroads, because I think they went through some drug addiction and stuff like I did, and I think a couple records suffered, and then the tragedy, and then boom, that happened, and I was rooting for him, man. I was just like, wow, way to freaking, it's like a phoenix risen from the ashes,
Absolutely. Can you talk, I know you and Chi were close. Can you just talk about Chi for a second?
Yeah. What breaks my heart is how I lost contact with him after, I don't know, the first like 2 records of KoRn and Deftones. We were tight and we would tour with them. We did club theater shows with them, and we didn't even care about like the who got big quicker or any of that, and then once that scene started growing and all these other bands started coming underneath, bands from Northern California, Deftones influenced, and then KoRn influenced bands, and then it kind of became like a, I don't know if Deftones didn't want to be is mixed with us as much, just because of where nu metal was going and the Limp Bizkit and everything. They never liked Limp Bizkit, I don't think. And I think they did in the beginning. I think Chino do something with them once?
I think they had to be homies for like 5 minutes at least.
Yeah, and then it just like it went a little corny for them, and so we lost touch, and so, but me and Chi, like I said, we just was like, it was like brothers, it was just like we were alike. We didn't love the crazy rock star party life. We drank a lot, but like You know, there was girls everywhere on the road, and me and him were like, man, we're gonna be faithful. You know, we love our girls and we're gonna do the right thing type of thing. So we kind of hung out like that, you know. And but yeah, we lost touch after a while. And I'd say probably, sorry, management calling me. I'd say around 97, 98 is when I lost touch with them. But whenever I've seen him, man, we would always be like, oh, and hang out. But it's just we didn't travel anymore, tour together anymore. But gosh, sweet art. Like I said, loved his kid so much. You know, even though relationships didn't work out, he loved his first wife. I remember her very well, and he loved her to death. And it's just hard to travel, in relationships and whatnot. But even if all of us were alcoholics and drank so much, but he would be so nice even when he's sloppy drunk, man. I just love you, man. I just love you so much, man. And you, man, you're the shit.
You guys strike me as both like the soulful dudes in your respective bands.
Yeah.
I think that's from 30,000 feet. I guess that's the impression that I get is you're the soulful one in KoRn and he's sort of the soulful dude in Deftones.
Oh man, thank you. That's a huge compliment being associated with him like that. And dude, and another thing, like we never felt like this, like these badass rock stars, freaking cool guys on stage with the fans. We were just like, oh man, no, oh thanks, man. We got embarrassed when they said we were so awesome, and they would like get nervous with us.
Yeah,
that's how we were, and we would hang out with the fans after the show, and just where some of the other guys, would be like more cocky,
sure.
like Phildy and Stephen, and obviously the singers and stuff. They got
the singer thing.
Yeah, a little bit more cocky, and I think maybe me and Chi were a little bit more insecure and stuff. I don't know. Maybe the other guys were overconfident, and we were not as confident as maybe we should be. Who knows? Another thing about Chi he would just bag on his freaking tooth all the time because he had his snaggle tooth.
Yeah,
that he called it, and he would say, "Hey man, give me your beer. I'll open it for you."
Did he actually? Could he open it with his teeth?
Oh yeah. Oh,
that's rad. That's so cool. Man, this has been incredible. I can't thank you enough. I want to ask you about the Ozzy tour in '96, but I know I got to wrap this up. So the way I finish every conversation is with a request for a recommendation. This is just based on something that Chino said on a podcast before. Like the only reason that he tweets out links to songs that he likes is because he thinks that's the coolest thing that somebody could get from him on social media. Like that's the coolest exchange. So in that spirit, can you recommend anything? I know it's sort of ambiguous and kind of puts you on the spotlight, but I'm choosing to ask for a recommendation as opposed to asking about touring with Ozzy in '96 because that's insane.
Dude, that was a dream come true. See Ozzy every day, like going down the hallway. I passed the room. He's on his treadmill. I'm like, dang, Ozzy, working out, trying to be healthy. Dude, the guy's so creepy and freaking awesome, and his melodies, the best, man. That was a dream come true. But so you talk about new music?
No, it could be anything across the board. It doesn't even have to be music. Of course, it certainly can be music, but anything at all that you think people should check out or get into.
Wow. I mean, that's like
sort of loaded. I know.
Wow. That is very loaded. Cryptocurrency. I think it's the future. It's very volatile. You could have $500 one day and $20 the next, but if you don't sell, that $500 is going to go up to thousands.
That's what's up.
And I feel like it's the future. But I'm gonna throw some music in there too.
Hell yeah,
dude. I don't know people out there that I don't mean to sound like I'm jumping on a bandwagon, but me and my daughter found the Spirit Box band pretty early on. That's one band that has some cool influences of new metal you can hear, but has like a 2022 vibe with melody and hooks and everything. But I remember hearing Holy Roller like right when it first came out, and I was blown away. And I love that band. Love
That's
that
awesome.
band. But there's a lot of cool bands out there, like Siamese. They're from Europe. Really cool band.
I don't think I've heard of them. That's dope. I'm excited to check them out.
Siamese. They got a cool, some cool songs. It's pretty. It's kind of it's like pop and metal mixed together. It's crazy. Check them out. Check them out. Definitely.
Siamese. Awesome. Yeah. That's tremendous, dude.
Cool band. But thank you so much,
man. Thank you.
Real quick, how long have you had this podcast?
The podcast was birthed in the pandemic. It was a result of me needing to get out of the house and connect with people. So I decided what better thing to talk about than my favorite band.
Oh, I love it, bro.
Dude, I love that about Cheese Snaggletooth. Just so cool. And when he explained nu metal, that was perfect. I mean, for some reason, I'd always sort of thought of nu metal as this aberration, like it was something that wasn't supposed to happen. Because, let's be honest, the bulk of nu metal was not great. And great bands got unfairly lumped into it, for better or worse. But that era of music continues to resonate and influence some of my favorite bands today, notably Vane, or Vane FM, who released one of my favorite albums so far this year, and I'm really excited to finally share my conversation with Anthony DiDio next week. Well, the plan is for next week, so keep your eyes on the 93X social media pages. On my socials, I'm at Woodbruh on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to talk about Deftones, hit me up. But that's it for episode 1, season 3, finally underway. Thank you for listening to Deftones, and thanks for listening to Change in the House of Pods.